Georgia, oh Georgia, the whole day through, just an old sweet song keeps Georgia on my mind. Welcome to the Beau Show, and Georgia is on my mind. It's on a lot of people's minds these days. If you recall, Georgia was a hotly contested state in the 2020 presidential election, when the usually red state flipped blue for both Biden and Senators Warnock and Ossoff. But there's still such a shroud of mystery around Georgia. And Donald Trump really criticized the way the state handled that election, especially Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger. Now, Democrats must have had this state in their crosshairs for quite some time, especially after Stacey Abrams lost the governor's race, but kind of kept on acting like she was the governor, hitting the talk show circuit really, really hard. Chances are, I bet you've heard of Stacey Abrams, but might not have heard of Brian Kemp, the actual governor of Georgia. And this plays into the Hollywood media complex, which collaborates with the Democratic Party. Getting Stacey Abrams on late night TV is essentially free advertising. And to Abrams' credit, she galvanized the Georgia vote, particularly minorities. Now, Hollywood has invested deeply in Georgia due to the amount of television and film production that is currently booming there. So, let's face it, some serious money got put into those 2020 races and has essentially turned Georgia into a new California, a phenomenon that can continue to happen as people exit deep blue states with bad leadership and high taxes. Biden won Georgia by 11,779 votes, which is pretty slim. But another phenomenon that I never heard discussed was the fact that the Libertarian candidate, Joe Jorgensen, got 62,000 votes. If you take Jorgensen off the ballot, that's a slam dunk for Donald Trump, because it was likely that more libertarians and conservatives voted for her rather than Democrats. So, what does that say about Georgians? It seems perhaps that a number of Republican women, particularly in Cobb County, set this one out. Not just for the presidential vote, but for the Senate as well. Combine that phenomenon with Hollywood spending and Stacey Abrams, and that's how Georgia was lost. Then there's the practice of ballot harvesting. This happens when you have a mail-in ballot, someone comes to your house and collects it, and then submits that ballot with a bunch of other ballots. This practice is illegal in Georgia. The law says that harvesting would be subject to punishment. Can't wait to see how many demerits and study halls will be given. Here's more. The Georgia Star News is reporting that election officials have not provided chain of custody documents for a little over 400,000 absentee vote by mail ballots that were deposited and counted. Let me repeat that number. 400,000. The state was only decided by 11,000. So if you're a person who says there was definitely no fraud, how can you say that? No matter who you're rooting for. Now, Joe Biden thinks that the new election law passed in Georgia is suppressive and makes it harder to vote. He falsely claimed that the new law requires polls to close at 5 p.m. This is not true. He and his press secretary, Jen Psaki, also said that the new law prevents people from accessing water while standing in line to vote. This is also untrue. Now, when you think back to the Trump administration and how the press mercilessly derided him, and his press secretaries too, for any hint of something misleading, it is amazing that the press does not treat the Biden administration the same way. Instead, they whisk Biden away like a senior who needs a nap. And it's not ageist to say this, because the man wanted to become president, and he has to withstand the rigors of the office, as well as the honesty of the office. Does anyone dare fact check him? Joe Biden has some clear mental deficiencies that are likely age-related, and also some other mental impairments. So let's look at Georgia's Election Integrity Act and what it actually does. And then we can decide whether it is actually suppressive, as Democrats and the NAACP say that it is. First, it requires a state-approved photo ID to vote absentee by mail. That seems reasonable, right? You need a photo ID to get on a plane, or to buy alcohol. I just had to have a document notarized recently, and guess what I needed? A photo ID. Nothing suppressive about that. The law also mandates that secure ballot drop boxes are inside buildings with constant surveillance. Okay, another reasonable measure. That prevents tampering. The bill also expands early voting, which addressed a key Democrat concern, yet not one Democrat voted for this bill. That's interesting. So what's the argument then for suppression? I don't get it. Photo IDs are free in Georgia. So what's the beef? But I'd like to take a broader view too. Have you noticed that during elections, you get these get out the vote messages? That started, as I recall, back in the MTV era. But in more recent days, those PR campaigns are designed to get you to vote, well, for one party. More importantly, I think a better campaign would be vote wisely. Because everyone is telling people to vote that have no idea who the candidates are, what they represent, and how it will affect them. When they say, it's your civic duty, well, yes, provided that you have a wise, informed electorate. Democrats have long had a stronghold on minorities due to social welfare programs. The hand out, not the hand up. Policies that incentivize things like government dependency. Now that Major League Baseball has pulled its All-Star game and the draft out of the state of Georgia in direct response to the Georgia election bill, you can see how corporations, especially professional sports, have capitalized on stupidity. Okay, if you had tickets to a baseball game and they're at will call, what would you have to provide to get those tickets? Maybe some form of government identification. Yet that very same league says that requiring a photo ID to vote is somehow discriminatory. Against whom, though? People don't know how to get a free ID? President Biden voiced his support of these leagues, comparing the Georgia law to Jim Crow and segregation. Now, we knew that Biden was not really running on all cylinders mentally, but that's lunacy. This is why I contend that sports are becoming not fun to watch anymore, because they've gone full tilt political. Just like award shows. Growing up, I loved watching football, and more recently, hockey. But I'm seeing every single league get hijacked by leftist propaganda. And this latest stunt by the MLB is another dive down the tube. Even Delta Airlines, Coca-Cola, and Viacom CBS have come out forcefully against this bill. So question, will Delta now stop requiring photo IDs to board one of their planes? Do they realize the utter hypocrisy they are showing right now? Now, Donald Trump has suggested a boycott. People may have to start hitting these companies in their wallets, because you can see the trend of corporations becoming more and more activist in recent years, all in this grand exercise of virtue signaling. I hate this, because I don't want to reduce my consumer choices all because of a woke inclusion campaign. But these corporations are doing a really, really good job of turning me away from them. Do these professional sports leagues show any activism when they play in places like Mexico or China? No, because it's all about their profit. The NBA seems awfully silent, as does activist player LeBron James. Georgia's governor, Brian Kemp, has stated that cancel culture and woke activism is coming for every part of your lives, even sports. And I think he's 100% right. As a singer, I have performed the national anthem for many, many professional sports teams. And I always took great pride in it. It was this moment of unity and respect. Well, at least until privileged Colin Kaepernick hijacked that and then profited from it. I want to end this episode with my performance of the national anthem at Turner Field before the Atlanta Braves got their new stadium. Now, this performance was back in 2014, before the whole activism wave really went haywire. I hope you will enjoy the unity and spirit of all involved that day, because Georgia has become quite a different place since that time. This new swing state has become the battleground for sensible laws versus social engineering and reprogramming. Having a photo ID to vote has become Jim Crow. Kneeling to protest the very flag and anthem that gave unprecedented freedom to hundreds of millions of people has become not just trendy, but encouraged. And corporations and networks are Happy to jump on that train too. It's why I wrote the little parody song From Woke to Broke just a few episodes ago, because they are all virtue signaling and then trying to profit from such self-glorification. You hate to lose your lifelong passion for a sport like baseball, but they're making it easy to dislike. As writer Roger Simon points out, virtue signaling, not baseball, has become America's national pastime. For all of its flaws and troubled history, our country should still be revered and respected. The way forward is to unite us, not divide us. But all of this postmodern oppressor versus oppressed is intentionally meant to divide Americans against each other and play favorites. Former basketball player Charles Barkley echoed this sentiment just this past weekend.
Man, I think most white people and black people are great people. I really believe that in my heart. But I think our system is set up where our politicians, whether they're Republicans or Democrats, are designed to make us not like each other so they can keep their grasp of money and power. They divide and conquer. I truly believe in my heart most white people and black people are awesome people.
The media, Hollywood, and now even sports are presenting a united front that invades our schools, our churches, our supermarkets, and now our stadiums. So think about this when you see this anthem performance from 2014 and ask yourself, what kind of America will you wake up to tomorrow? Be sane, be wise, be enlightened, which is the opposite of woke. I'm Beau, and that's the show.
Please join with the singing of our national anthem, performed by Emmy-nominated singer-songwriter Beau Davidson. Celebration here at Turner Field as we honor the 4th of July and celebrate our Independence Day, right? All right.